What is happening, Tokusatsu fandom? This is your captain speaking, and today we are talking episode 5 of Kamen Rider Zi-O. Now, first things first, I kind of thought the show was starting to get pretty formulaic up until now, because I thought that this episode was just going to be, part 1 of the Forze crossover episode. I mean, I know we don't have Gentaro showing up in here, but I thought it was just going to be like the first part of the Forze episode where we would be introduced to our another rider character, which is, this time Forze. And then, like, in the part 2, then they would travel back to the year 2011 and defeat him, right? But that actually wasn't the case here. We're actually knocking out 2 riders this time in one episode, being Forze and Fize, of course. And that ending was a good twist as well, but I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. So we open up on the Time Jackers, specifically with Wool and Hora. And Wool is mocking Hora for her defeat by Zi-O last week with another X-Aid. And she's just not trying to hear any of that. But then they're interrupted by the newest Time Jacker, Schwartz, who I must say is pretty cool looking. But he approaches them to remind them that the timeline is still in favor of Sogo becoming Oma Zi-O, and that they must hurry and find a new King of Time. Switching our focus over to Sogo, we see him coming from school, and he comes across this pair of friends that have agreed to study for a test together, and in turn, this kind of gets him to think about whether or not he's starting some kind of budding friendship with Gates and Tsukiyomi as well. He doesn't say anything, but you can see it in his face, and plus there's a flashback to what Tsukiyomi said last week about her doing her best to try and stop him from becoming Oma Zi-O. So Sogo is going to meet up with Tsukiyomi and Gates back at his uncle's clock shop, and she's going to let him know that they have the new scoop on another rider, but this time it's one that's been looking for 18-year-old girls who have Libra zodiac signs. It's been going on for about 7 years at this point, and the police have yet to notice anything. Their search is going to lead them to Amanagawa High School, which is obviously where Gentaro, Kamen Rider Forze, attended. So their search is really going to lead them nowhere at first. They even throw on uniforms to try and blend in. And they ask around the high school from different students if they know any 18-year-old Libras, and they really don't know anything. And then Gates has the idea to try and search the school server to find any info that he can. But then Sogo, he thinks he has a better idea, where he gets himself temporarily injured, which leaves them an opening where the school nurse can leave her office and they can check her computer, where they find something. And it's a girl by the name of Yamabuki Karine. Not long after, Sogo is going to find her, but she kind of appears like she's stumbling, just like barely managing to stay awake and up. She eventually runs off, and Sogo tries to chase after her, but then he's stopped by walls again, and he shows up for more exposition, as usual. Now this time he's a bit confused as to what's going on, but he knows that the Time Jackers are still involved, and tells Sogo that this case starts with a shooting star. Eventually, when everyone finds the girl, she's already been captured by another Forze. So Sogo and Gates are both going to step in and transform to fight him, and I gotta say, I really enjoy hearing the sound effects from the Forze driver out of another Forze. It was very nostalgic, even though Forze was only, 7 years ago? Yeah. So, during the fight, the Build Riot Watch is going to slip off of Zi-O, and Gates manages to get it and transforms into Build Armor Time. And, surprisingly, it works, just with a slightly different look to him. So it's nice to see that Zi-O and Gates can share the Riot Watches like that. Now, before anything further happens, Gates manages to find the year 2011 stamped onto another Forze's shoulder, and that kind of catches him off guard at first before he goes for the finisher. But alas, it does nothing, and Forze gets away. And literally right after they de-transform, they're greeted by 2 guys from Amanagawa's current Kamen Rider Club. And they're of course nobody that we recognize, but they do seem to know Gentaro's signature handshake. So they bring them back to their base, and they explain that their Kamen Rider Club has been in existence since 2011, and Gates recognizes that this lines up with another Forze. And not long after, that teacher we know from Forze shows up. I forgot what his name is, but he's still part of the club, and it's nice to see at least someone back from Forze. But what's going to happen is he's going to recognize the ride watches that Gates is wearing, and he gives the Forza ride watch to them. And he explains that Gentaro instructed him to give it to them. And he says that Gentaro instructed him to give it. So with enough clues set in place, both Sogo and Gates head back to the year 2011 in pursuit of another Forza. And we see that he's already somewhat of a villain before he even gets his powers. But he's already like kidnapping people and using probably cosmic energy on them or whatever, from Forza. But he's starting to like kind of lose his power, and he's going to stumble outside in the middle of this fight between the actual Forza and one of the Zodiarts. And time is paused, and Schwartz shows up, and he offers him the Forza Rider Watch, which gives him the power of Forza, and that's where his story began. And we see that when he obtains a power, it takes away the powers from Forza himself. So then Sogo and Gates eventually locate him hiding out in a warehouse. They transform, and another fight ensues. Things aren't going so well at first, like Sogo was kind of getting kicked around, and then Gates transforms into Armor Time Drive, and then Waz shows up in the middle of it, which gives Sogo an opening to transform into Armor Time Forza. And other than having like two giant rockets on his hands, I gotta say the look works pretty well. Like, it's kind of bulky, but like at the same time sleek as well. So we then cut back to the year 2018, where Tsukiyomi catches up with Kyrene and warns her about another Forza trying to come after her. And less than 10 seconds later, this hooded figure in a cloak shows up, but not before being ambushed by Takumi, Kamen Rider Zi-O. Now, this is a part that caught me by surprise, because I know like at the beginning that Waz explained that Forza and Zi-O were both going to show up at the beginning of the episode, but somehow in the middle of the episode, though, I kind of forgot about that, and I thought it was just going to be a Forza-focused episode. Now, for the record, I have not seen Kamen Rider Zi-O yet, but I did recognize Takumi when he did show up, though. Now, Kusaka, on the other hand, who was the cloaked figure from before, it took me a bit longer to recognize him because, like I said, I haven't watched Zi-O yet, but I know he's Kaiksa, though. So one last time, it's going to cut back to 2011, where we see another Forza change into another Zi-O. Now, this is another part that kind of broke up the monotony of the formula for me, because I literally did not see that coming. And that's the episode. Now, I'm really glad that this episode kind of shook things up a bit, because, like I said, I was kind of tired of the formula that I thought it was just going to follow from week to week. And it's nice to see that they didn't fall into that trap. Like, they're actually tackling multiple riders in the same episode. And plus, we learned that the other riders have the ability to change forms as well. So, like, that right there gave me a little more hope that this season is actually going to be good. Because I know that this show has its doubters. And plus, from what little we've seen of him, I actually really like the new Time Jacker Schwartz. Like, he just looks really cool and menacing. But yeah, that's going to be about all I have for you today. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Like my Facebook page at Midwest Tokusatsu. Link will be in the description. And this is your captain, signing out.